Welcome to G-Files History. Today is May 1st, the day of a local dictator. On this day in 1961, Cuban leader Fidel Castro made a declaration that would define his rule for decades to come. There would be no more elections in Cuba. The island nation, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida, had officially cemented itself as a one-party communist state, and the United States was watching closely. To understand this moment, we need to rewind just a couple of years. In 1959, Fidel Castro led the Cuban Revolution, a guerrilla uprising that successfully overthrew the US-backed dictator Fulgencio Batista. Batista's regime had long been associated with corruption, repression, and a widening gap between the rich and poor. Castro's charismatic, defiant, and armed with promises of justice and equality, became a hero to many in Cuba and a symbol of resistance to imperialism. But the victory came at a cost, particularly in the eyes of Washington. Almost immediately after taking power, Castro began nationalizing industries, seizing land, and cutting off ties with American corporations and interests. The U.S. responded with economic sanctions, Cuba moved closer to the Soviet Union, and tensions escalated fast. By 1961, just months after severing diplomatic ties with the U.S., Castro stood before his people and declared Cuba a socialist republic. The promise of free and open elections was off the table. In his view, Western-style democracy had only ever served the elite. Instead, Cuba would embrace Marxist-Leninist ideals, setting the stage for over 60 years of one-party rule. This hardened the divide between Cuba and the United States, leading to events like the Bay of Pigs invasion, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and decades of Cold War hostility. And yet, through it all, Castro remained in power, surviving assassination attempts, political isolation, and global scrutiny. To some, he was a dictator, to others, a revolutionary icon. Today, the U.S. and Cuba relations continue to evolve, but the legacy of Castro's rise in 1961 remains one of the most significant and controversial chapters in the history of the Western Hemisphere, a sharp reminder of how one leader's decision can shift the trajectory of a nation for generations. That's May 1st, one day, a world of history.